to stop and talk for a while. So my guest today is Vinnie Golia. He's the guy on the right in that in that music. Yeah, and he's a multi woodwind player. So he was playing a few different axes. Hi, Vinnie Golia.
Hello, how are you?
I am so good, especially now that I'm talking to you. Now I can really focus on you.
Ah, okay.
So one thing I just want to say that must be so much fun to to play like that.
Well, we've been playing since they were students at Cal Arts. And that's, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago. So now I think we've been playing together for, I don't know, close to 15 years or more. And it is, I mean, those are all like new charts. Maybe we had all get together or something like that. Guys just like rip right through the stuff, like they're born with it. So it's really fun
Yeah.
to play because I can basically write anything I want with a few complaints, every once in a while I do.
Hey,
Um,
could you get a little closer to the mic or turn your mic
oh,
on?
sure, 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 sure. How's that? Better?
Um,
I'm up.
yeah, that's better.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I can really, I have a lot of freedom in that sense. And then when we're on the stand, I can change things up. You see, I have like cue cards and little things that I can do. Like I can walk over to Dan, the trumpet, Dan Rosenblum, and bring a B flat instrument and look at his chart, and just play sections as backgrounds and stuff, and then even improvise using other tunes to use as transitions. I mean, we do a lot of different kind of stuff, and it's really, yeah, it is fun. It's very exciting because you're using everything that you have to improvise, but you also have to read score, and you have to be able to conduct, and you have to be able to like really sense where the soloist is and change the music around them so that you have kind of almost a modular approach to the music rather than everything is in a straight line, head solo, head solo. Thank you very much. This is the next tune I wrote on a holiday in France. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That's nothing against that. That's the
Does that
tradition
happen?
for years. But I don't really
You've
come.
been doing that for years. You
Yeah,
do that with the big band too, right?
I do, and that is more so when I'm conducting than when other people are conducting, uh, because some of the music is pretty complex. Um, I have to have a designated conductor, but I also conduct and do the improvised gestures, and if you want to call it conduction or sound painting, I do that. And then also I have a whiteboard where I write cues and stuff and hold it up. And then I also have cards. So there's two conductors, there's me. So everybody is constantly. Dave Johnson once said, the late Dave Johnson once said that he liked playing in a band because he used everything he knew. So you have to be able to follow score, follow conductor, improvise, be spontaneous, and blend in spontaneous backgrounds and stuff. So I think it's um, a unique thing in some ways. In other ways, it's been around for centuries. So it's just my take on it, and
Yeah.
it is a lot of fun. Harder in the
Yeah.
bigger
I
group.
remember actually, sorry?
I was just saying harder in the bigger groups because you have to tune more people to the thing. But again, a lot of the people who are in the a large ensemble now, whereas now it's like an orchestra, it's like over 50 people. They all come up through that farm system of Cal Arts, and they come into the band, and so they're already familiar with it. So it's fantastic training. It's a fantastic training ground.
That's amazing. I was going to tell you that I remember a long time ago coming to see the orchestra, the ensemble, with Scott Yanow, and it was like not in UCLA, but kind of more towards the Veterans Hospital. You know, it was over on the
It
west
was,
side.
yeah, it was the off of Wilshire Boulevard,
Yeah,
like a theater. There's a small
yeah.
theater tucked away. Yeah, that was the first concert we did in, well, that's 1988, and we did no, that's not true. 90s, in the 90s, we did a tour from that. That was the first concert
Uh,
on the tour.
I remember Scott and I were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." You know, because
Yeah,
you really don't see performances like that very much, or it in the normal,
right.
the normal kind of life.
You know, it's funny because Los Angeles was a hotbed of that stuff, in the 50s and 60s with guys like Don Ellis and such, I mean,
Yeah.
there were a lot of large groups that were like pushing the envelope in certain ways, Gerald Wilson. There were a few groups like that, but lately now everyone is it's very conservative in many ways. I don't see a lot of people stretching. There was a guy who had I think he was a baritone player who had a band that was doing some interesting stuff. Could he was from around here, so could his name be Adam Schroeder or something like that? Maybe baritone. I think he had a band that was doing some really interesting things, and there's a few others I'm probably forgetting. There's now a band called Decisive Instant, which is a large group, but they don't play. The difference with my thing is like it's music of one composer, so whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but that's what it is, and so like even Gerald Wilson, he did a lot of arrangements of other people's music also and stuff. And really interesting stuff. But there was and Michael Wakovich had one also. Wasn't as big. I think it was around 8 or 10 people. A fantastic writing, and that seemed to be like I don't know. I mean, way before when I was still painting, I did a painting show here in 1972, and a pianist named Pete Robinson was in a large group. It had Marty Crystal and
Hmm.
Ernie Watts and
Huh.
uh, boy, it's a long time ago. I'm trying to remember who else. The drummer was Brian Moffat,
Huh.
and Dave Pritchard played guitar.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was a really interesting group, and Roberto Miranda was one of the bass players. I remember it really pretty well, because obviously because it was a painting show and they were interpreting some of the paintings as music notation, which is kind of how I started. But so I said like, wow, this place is a hotbed of stuff.
Well, it's I remember being at the Blue Whale seeing Mark Dresser,
Yeah.
and Brad Dutz was there, and the room was pretty full. And it was during the time when I was hanging out a lot at the Blue Whale, and I didn't see anyone I knew except for Brad.
Mhm.
And I mentioned that to him, and he said, oh, there's like a whole huge community world that, you just haven't tapped into, because all
Yeah.
these people are part of it, Um, and um, yeah, I don't know if generally, I don't know if people out of that community, think of LA as the hotbed for it. They probably would think of New York,
Mhm.
first.
Well, New York is, well, it's simple. New York has all the writers. and they write about it. So that's why people know about it. Here, we have maybe Kirk Silsby and Greg Burke, and their access to publication is rather limited. Except for maybe Greg has a website, metal music, I think it's called, uh, um, and he's very voracious about following the whatever is coming out his way that he doesn't know about. He actively pursues that, and he has a powerful way of writing, and it's really fantastic. He's kind of carried on in the Richard Meltzer phase, but back when I was starting to play here, we still had Leonard Feather and Don Snowden and Zan Stewart and the LA Times covered local people.
Hmm.
That was pretty good, but it still wasn't national, and so the more national writers, the more writers that write nationally, the more we're exposed to a grand audience and more people want to find out, even the people who live here. But we don't have that, I mean, and actually people go out of their way to avoid even mentioning any of the creative music scene quite often. Usually it's like, hey, somebody's coming from New York and they're quite good and they're very creative. But we have that here. We have, I can name like any of those young guys you just saw, like Dan Rosenblum and Gavin Templeton and Andrew Lessman and Alex Noyce. They all have bands of their own, and they're quite exciting and different. Alex has two vocalists, bass and a saxophone and guitar and drums with computer works. Dan, you never know what his group is going to be. Gavin's is a bit more traditional, but still on the verge of very creative writing. Andrew has a group with electronics and drum, like programming drums and stuff. All these guys are I mean, that's not even to talk about the old guard, which is, guys like Stuart Liebig and Nels is gone, but Bill Roper, Bobby Bradford's still here.
Yeah.
All of these guys who do very creative work and are it's very exciting work, but it's not covered by anyone. It's all underground. It's all word of mouth. It's all because no one pays any attention to it. And the less people, that's how they diffuse the entire scene, by not paying attention to anything. The
Yeah.
more you don't pay attention to it, it's like you don't exist.
Yeah.
So you have to constantly you know, do something else, but it's not going to stop the creative flow because
No.
there's people who do it just because they want to do it. So that's great. But making a living, now that's another story.
Yeah. There's I mean, I don't even, and I go out a lot, but I don't even know of too many venues. I mean, obviously, the Blue Whale is the
Mhm.
prime venue, for a showcasing. And um, as small as it is, Brad Dutz's place,
Yeah,
Sun Space.
Sun Space.
I mean, I've gone over there and had my mind blown a
Hmm.
bunch of times. And then, well, the Red Cat can be a venue, right? You've played the
Yeah.
Red Cat a lot, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to even right now think of. I'm sure there's like private concerts, right? Home
There
concerts.
are home concerts. A few there's quite a few. Some of them don't like them to be mentioned. They like to
Yeah,
be by invitation only, so I'm not going to mention anybody. But
yeah.
there are a few people who are doing the home concerts. There's also, series like Will Salmon's and Alex
Oh,
Klein.
yeah,
They
that's
put
a
a
great one.
series together for over 20 years. But it's once a month on a Sunday, and so, but still, it's there.
Yeah, yeah,
And they bring people. People come in and play, and also they are very gracious to most of the local people. So, I mean, a guy like Will is a really interesting guy because he's trying to blend theater with his music and does all of these like very extensive projects with Greek mythology and stuff. It's just unbelievable. And he's been doing it for since I've been here in LA. Matter of fact, I think he got here just after I got here,
Yeah.
and he's been quite exciting. But a lot of the organizations that once, you're right, a lot of the organizations that once put on this kind of music aren't here anymore. The Independent Composers Association and a lot of things like that. They're just not here. And even in the Black community, Dwight's been keeping the world stage going. And Michaela Sessions, who was a Cal Arts student, brother of the son of Michael Sessions, has kept the orchestra going now into a new phase. So so Horace Tapscott's legacy is still moving through the community like that. So, and there's also Bob Bradford doing, his thing just recently writing this fantastic suite of music for the memory of Jackie Robinson. So, I mean, it's here.
Yeah.
It's just not being paid attention to. And the more you do these self-promoting things, it makes it look smaller than it is in some ways. And in other ways, when you put out records and CDs and stuff, people go like, well, I never had a clue that this was happening in Los Angeles, And so you do get that one moment of somebody writing about it, but you need to have that sustained. You need the local, you need the local thing to create the buzz. You need the international thing to maintain the buzz so that the players can get out of LA to play in other places. I mean, I've been fortunate, to do that, but not everyone has. So.
Yeah. There's also Rocco's festival.
Yes. Yes. Angel City, of course. Yes.
That's a pretty amazing accomplishment. I was gonna,
Certainly.
I was gonna work for them this year. I wanted to just jump in and do some elbow grease, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought, oh, this is good because I always think of creating a festival, and then I just realized this year, you're not going to create a festival. That's way too much work. Why don't you just offer your services for a festival, and you can get this thrill of doing it, but I mean, the reality of creating a festival is so
Well,
huge.
see, there's also the thing of being ignored by a lot of festivals too, like
Yeah.
that are here. Like the OI Festival could certainly have, um, if not my large ensemble, certainly Michael Vlakovich or any of the other people who have these large creative ensembles. Rather than that, they bring in somebody from the outside often to do the same thing that's already here. Now, whether they think that everyone knows us or not, I don't know what the logic is, or maybe because once more they're on the East Coast and they only see what they see because people are writing about it. But man, it's no offense, but for me, the large ensemble is a perfect fit for Ojai.
Yeah.
Plus, it would be because it blends, like improvised music with new music notation. But I don't, I don't see it. But I'm not the only one who does that. So there are other people who could get. I wouldn't care. Just put somebody from here in there.
Yeah.
It's
I
just.
remember talking to Wadado, and he said, I saw him at, it wasn't the Colburn, I guess, but it was right next to the Colburn. Maybe it was part of the museum.
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, I went to that too. Yeah, that was
Oh,
a good concert.
wasn't that great?
Yeah, it was really good. Really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was talking to him, and he was saying that even though he lived somewhat close outside the city, but somewhat close, he said that he goes out of town to play because there's really not a lot of things to do here
Right.
for
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
It's
Yeah,
kind of
so
sad actually for a city of this size to do that. I mean, it's part of the heritage of the city. I mean, going all the way back into as far as you want to go, it's been a real creative cauldron of music. Now we're only talking about, like, you know, black-based music and improvisation and even new music, like new classical music. There's always been, I mean, the Monday evening concerts, for example. Darren Stalvey had these took over those Monday evening concerts, and then instigated the series at the L.A. County Museum. And that used to be a pretty creative
It used to be
thing, but
great.
now it's pretty fluff.
I know.
I mean,
It's very
that
disappointing.
when I talked to the guy who ran it, he said, "Well, we're opening it up for greater possibilities." Well, that just means that they're going to commercialize it and get more people there so they can sell more drinks and blah blah blah. Great. That's just
Yeah,
what. That's just
that's
what.
what you need at a museum.
Yeah. I mean, Lawrence's idea was to have new music to go with the artwork, which is the at the forefront of the art world. Well, we don't get that.
Yeah,
I mean, we get music. I mean, listen, everybody who's playing there is really fantastic. Great. But they have other opportunities. You know, we don't
yeah,
have opportunities.
yeah,
And it's a place for new and exciting, innovative things, and it's not fulfilling its function.
yeah.
You know,
Have you ever curated a venue or a location?
I curated just part of an exhibit at the Museum of Making Music in in, in Encinitas, I think, for a saxophone show, and it was the history of the saxophone. So
Cool.
everyone from like early swing guys to Charles McPherson playing bop, and there was one guy that I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but he is a really great soloist and big band player. Um, he he did an exhibition of playing a number of different saxophones with some pre-recorded tapes and stuff. I wish I could remember now. It's just passing by. But I mean, he has a collection of some very very unique saxophones. Like, it was just beautiful. We're
Yeah, yeah. Sounds
really
great.
lucky. And
You know
and
what?
so every week was a few people, and then we also played. I played with Bertram Turetsky, the classical bass player. We did some set, and then the group you just heard played also.
Cool.
Yeah,
There's Christopher Burnett here. Hi, Christopher. And he said, Jazz Artistry Now is a digital arts magazine focused on serving as a platform for progressive music and jazz that's aimed at promoting local scenes to the national and international audience of this American music. Scott Ian was one of our writers. And he listed, I guess it might be the, I'm not, yeah, it looks like the link too. Jazz Artistry Now. That's great, Christopher. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Yeah, wonderful. Um, Progressive music. So, is there a real difference, do you think, in the term progressive and avant-garde?
Yeah, they're just made up things.
Not really.
I don't know. I mean, for Charlie Parker was avant-garde in his time, and Coltrane was avant-garde, Eric Dolphy was avant-garde, and now they become part of the vocabulary. They
Yeah,
might be pushing the envelope. I would say that, but I mean, I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, guys like let's say Lockerman as a composer are considered to be quite avant-garde, but when you listen to his music, and you listen to maybe Company with Derek Bailey, the music has a similarity.
yeah,
So with avant-garde, it's like let's break it down to like maybe it's ritualistic, maybe it's this or that. But I mean, there are going to be people who like to work on the not so familiar edges of music, and there are going to be people who like to work right in the center of things. I don't know if I don't like calling it avant-garde because it puts a label, and then that puts a preconception, and then that puts people off. But if you just say I'm creating music that I write, that's great. You know? And we'll see where it goes. You
Uh,
know.
I remember watching Monsieur Santos. Did you ever see him in the old days?
Yeah.
And he was doing, a little bit of what you do. I guess we could talk about a smaller band first, so people's brains don't explode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, I usually get a thought or I hear a sound or see somebody or something strikes me or I mean I'm looking around, I'm seeing what's happening now. Um, it's like being back in the 60s, Okay, so you get an inkling, and then eventually you sketch it out. I keep a lot of notebooks. I have notebooks all over the place, scraps of paper. I'm always jotting stuff down. So
Does
uh,
this song have a beginning and an end?
in my brain.
Okay, and
So
is it kind of like movements, like different
um,
pieces, or is there like one melody that runs all the way through?
um, it depends on it really depends on the piece. There's the beginning is always the first idea you have, but that beginning part might be shoved to the middle eventually. Like you start writing and working on that one idea, that might gestate into something that has a middle and an end, but maybe this part is better as a beginning. Now you start doing the composer logic, and seeing what it is. Excuse me. But everything will have some kind of shape and form to it. And then it's written for the people that I know who are going to play it. So I have that advantage, of having a band and having actually more than one band. So I can write for different situations. And then I can flesh that out so it's through composed. And then I can figure out how to improvise with it. But it does things do have often I can hear it almost all the way through, but most of the time it's a beginning of something that starts a process, and then it's me writing and getting into like that. And that's for me, that's really exciting because like I said before, I was a painter, so I'm used to working that way, where you have a shape, an idea, a color, and you're working from that color, and you're doing something with it, and then it's building on top, and eventually you get an entire composition, and you can look at it from different aspects. So that in itself is a different way of looking at music than just starting like head. You have this A section, and harmonically it moves to this. Let's see how we want to do that. Okay, do we want to? Let's let's take it up. Okay, let's put this in here. Okay, now we have another. We have a bridge section, and then we have an ending section. I don't really think in that like that so much. I'm thinking of sections and moving the masses of things together, like in the visual aspect. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so then you get so you have a chart that is I mean, I've seen Brad Dutz's charts,
Uh-huh.
you know. Is it like his, like there's a kind of an the whole idea, there's the bones
Yeah.
and they're written down, but the skin and the muscles are interchangeable, like you were speaking of earlier, and um, some of the skin and muscles may be there, but a lot isn't. So it's kind of open for improvisation.
Um, sometimes the improvisation is at the front. Sometimes it's in there's a section written for improvising. Sometimes it's a section for color to set up the next section. It's written in traditional music notation, and I have one or two things that are a little more. They're not so much graphic scores and stuff. The graphic scores I do separately. That's like a whole separate thing, and it's usually for people who can't read music. So often now, when you go someplace, this is an aside, but it relates to what you're asking me. Because they can't often bring the band, they hook you up with local improvisers. Now, so a lot of the improvisers are just that, improvisers. They don't think in the traditional music schooled way. They think about just about what they can do and what they can use to create things. It's a different way of thinking about playing music. And they don't read music. So for those people, I've created scores, and because of my training in visual arts, I started to use animated scores. So there are shapes and colors and things that flow past you that they can relate to in a textual manner as opposed to linear manner. But that's not what we do when we're doing like band music. Because when we're doing music for groups or bands that I have, it's traditional notation, and some of it's not is hard. I would bet that Brad's is probably more rhythmically complex than mine. However, I have more layers of density and individual parts. So I'm a big counterpoint guy. I'm not so much on the harmonic movement, but more through counterpoint. So there are always shifting lines and things that are happening. If I want to get from point B to point D, I need to have a bridge, a transition bridge. Part C could be an improvised section. Part D could be a textual section that's written so that the improviser works into a textual section, which will lead to another section in a tune. So it's like if we were walking in a straight line out of Los Angeles, we'd walk and slowly we'd be in the hills and then eventually we'd be in the mountains. It's kind of like that. It's like only more abrupt.
Right. This reminds me of talking to Bevan Manson too. Do you know Bevan?
No.
Oh God, I should introduce you to.
Huh.
Bevan is a very intelligent person. He's got one foot strongly in classical and one foot strongly in jazz, and
Uh-huh.
he's able to do a lot and see a lot and create a lot. I think you guys would get along fantastically. Probably join
Great.
forces somehow. I'm gonna write that down. Bevan and Vinny. um, yeah. So so then, just to follow along my thinking, so you bring the music to the band, and
Yeah.
I obviously there's different, like if you had 10 pieces, they might look all totally different from each other, right?
Oh yeah. I usually
As-
write in like big groups. So if, let's say the group you just saw, like the um, sextet has a gig. I'm like one of these guys that doesn't like to play the same material over and over. Now I understand the benefits of it. So when we're on the road, that's a different thing, and we have like so many tunes, and that's our set list I can mess around with. So let's say I bring, 15 or not that many. Let's say 10 tunes, and we can play this one that night and this one another night and stuff like that. But usually, like let's say that I get a gig at the Whale. Oh, we have 2 sets. Great. Maybe we'll do some older tunes interspersed with like maybe a set of new tunes. And the other thing about the way I like to play is like I don't like to stop in between. I like to have a continuous flow. So so the tunes, depending on how the person is improvising or the band is improvising, then that leads to the next tune. That has a so we have some kind of continuity, and you have a catharsis from taking like point A. By the time you get to the end of the concert, you should have gone through this journey somehow, but without repeating certain things. I mean, for many years, like the Blue Note, you buy a Blue Note record, first tune is either like really fast or half tempo swing tune. The second tune is either the one that they didn't do first, so that means either half tempo or swing tune fast. Third tune is usually Latin tune, or a bossa or something like that. And the fourth tune is the ballad, and then you repeat the process.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't think that way. Like I think in terms of vamps, grooves, time, no time, ballad, harmonic tune, non-harmonic tune, totally textural tune. So that I can use the instruments I play. Really, when it comes down to it, I mean, why have a basset horn if you can't use it? So the idea is to create these areas where I can improvise on these instruments that I have and I like playing and I like the sound of them. I mean, really, when it comes down to the bottom line is like I've got 5 other people who are interested in playing with me, playing unusual instruments. And it's very simple. But so if I hear a certain sound, sometimes I can't use that sound in that group. I start another group based around those sounds. So I have I did a series of recordings and concerts of music. It's called Music for Like Instruments. So one was all clarinets, one was all E-flat saxophones, one was all B-flat saxophones, and one was all flutes. And I never got to finish the double reed one yet. So with the clarinet ones, I have 5. There's 5 of us playing these charts that are very kind of intricate and using the different sounds of the clarinets, which is great. And then with the E-flat things, I'm using 3 flat alto saxophones, and I'm playing usually baritone, contrabass saxophone, sopranino, and stuff to create those sounds bounced against that one sound. So each project I do has a logic to it in my own head. With the flutes, I play the contrabass flute and the bass flute, and I like the extremes of piccolo and of the different pitches. So I was playing. That group was 3 women. 3 other was Ellen Burr and Montice McCain and damn, I'm gonna forget the third one. Damn it! Oh,
Looks painful.
I'll pay for this too. Oh Jesus! Okay, I can see her face and I can't pull the trigger. Anyway, most of them played regular flute. Some played piccolo. Some played alto flute as a double and stuff. So I wrote the tunes based around me playing mostly contrabass, bass, and piccolos and stuff. I played very little C flute in that group.
I wonder if any of that is on YouTube.
I would imagine. I don't know, but the recording.
What's it called?
It's called Music for Like. It's called Music for Like Instruments. The flutes.
It's called Music
for Like Instruments.
Like?
Oh, yeah, I like it. Yeah, yeah. Instruments, and it just says the flutes. Don't see it.
Right. It's coming up like this one, which
Mm.
you said was cool. Um, the Flow Festival. Yeah, maybe not.
I
Or
don't
we'd
think
have to
so.
go look for it.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, now
Yeah.
that I know that you have, there's so much. Oh, and yeah, we need to. Oh, here's music for strings. No, that's different, right?
Different.
Piano and
Yeah.
woodwinds.
Yeah. Oh, that strings is
Um,
that's an interesting thing. I did that in New York.
this one or
And
the
then, yeah,
brilliant
and then I
strings?
just did another version. The one at Roulette. That was fun. Very nice string
Let's
players, actually.
let's let's maybe listen to a little.
Sure. I don't know when we started, but the fellow videoed the whole thing, so I think this is me setting up.
Okay,
You go in a little bit, I think
my
it'll be cool. Yeah.
my internet.
Mm.
Come on. This is really wild. And so there's another person to the left, right?
There's a piano. Ken Fiano's in the back, and Jason Wong is playing the first violin. So, one, two, three, four, five, six. There's 6 people there. You can't see the piano, and you can't see Ken. Unfortunately, there was just like one angle, and they put it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Andrea Walper
Ah,
and Ken say hi. They're not on because they're not at home and they can't get it on the phone for some reason. And Dean Muccetti, he said hi, and he said the music of enter person's name for far more accurate than a genre style label. Oh, thank you.
yeah, yeah.
So, I'm curious about your. Well, first of all, I am curious. Because I really don't know. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Bronx on the East Coast.
Okay.
Eventually, my family moved to New Jersey, and then I went to college in New York and for visual art. And I met a lot of when I got out of college, I started going to clubs to draw musicians and stuff. And eventually, I started using my paintings as music notation, as graphic notation, and having musicians play. And I also did a couple of live shows where I did live painting with musicians. And I was fortunate enough to be in a situation of getting to know some very amazing musicians, Big Lehman, Chick Corea, Anthony Braxton, etc. And I was very, 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 very fortunate. And also, by going to the clubs, I met a lot of music, heard tons of great music at that time, because in the late 60s, early 70s was a big metamorphosis in the music we know today. It's commonplace, but back then, Miles was just starting to go electric, and I had friends that were playing in his band, so I got to see them and meet them and talk every night, about art and music. And Braxton had just moved in, so the art ensemble was coming in. All the Chicago guys, the AACM guys were coming in. There was also I got to meet Mingus and Pharoah Sanders and tons of people just from drawing the pictures, and a lot of them, even like people like Benny Maupin to this day, still has a picture that I drew of him in his studio. I drew it must have drawn it in 1969 or so.
Can
So,
I can I go somewhere online here and see
no,
your art? Is it on your?
no, there's a couple of things that are album covers, like Chick Corea's Song of Singing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's one. Dave Holland, Music for Two Basses.
So you don't have it on your site?
No, it's
Your art?
all gone. All that stuff is gone. I either sold them or or some of them were stolen. Believe it or not. Yeah, and there's not much. No. Um,
Let's
yeah.
see.
uh, let's see. There's that large ensemble one is a study of a Swiss chard piece.
Where is that?
Underneath where your cursor is.
Here?
Go down. Next one. That one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's one of mine. I don't know about the. Oh, that other one is mine up on top. The Vinnie Golia trio.
This one.
Yeah,
Oh, this is really beautiful. The
yeah.
space
I
is
was a much
really
better
beautiful.
painter than I am musician.
You think so? No, man. I'm not
Yeah.
sure about that.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you can find the Chick Corea one. That's pretty good. That was done. That was a transitional one, actually. But this was. I forgot about this one. This was kind of fun. You can certainly see the Kandinsky influence.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, not much, not much else on there. I don't think.
Yeah, then there's okay, so Chick, Korea, what was the
Song of singing,
song of singing?
singing. There it is.
Oh,
Yeah, that one.
oh,
Yeah, there it is.
oh, I remember that cover.
Yeah, it's kind of a transitional one. You can see like I was moving from still using traditional objects into more spatial stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you said Dave Holland.
Music from two bases. That's a line drawing. I also did one for Joe Henderson, which is nice too. Ah, there you go. There it is there. Yeah. That one was for ECM.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. That's him playing. Actually, that's him playing cello at my painting show. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
That's nice.
Yeah. The Joe Henderson one is pretty good too. I kind of like that one.
Oh,
I have a warm spot for that. It's called Black is the Color. Ah, there it is.
right here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really beautiful too.
Um, that was a nice one. That was done at the session actually. They let me in with the musicians to draw pictures, and that one saved my butt because I was down to my last 30 cents. And I really seriously, I was living in New York. I didn't have any money. I didn't know what was going to happen, and Joe let me come in and draw. And the next day, I went to Orange Keep News, and he gave me $100. Saved my butt.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, I never forgot. Joe was very, very, very kind in letting me sit in at the session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, then did you actually give up painting?
Well, I look at composition as painting
Uh-huh.
because you spend so much time agonizing over little things like, that's not right. No, that's not right. It's just like painting. And I think of improvisation more as like drawing, and because it's much more freewheeling and you're drawing, and then you move to the next one, and you're going and you're moving, and you're thinking really fast and watching and listening. I could draw as fast as those cats could play, and still maintain the shape of them because of having training. And then also I could abstract it the way they were playing. So if Anthony started in a lyrical manner, and I was drawing him, the drawing would look like him and be lyrical, like the Joe Henderson cover. But when they started to get more frenetic and stuff, then the drawing would capture that. So a lot of the work is in triptychs and stuff like that. Some of those I have still in my mom's house in New Jersey. She's passed away, but I still kept the house, and I haven't actually got around to taking things out of the cellar and attic and stuff. So I have some of those drawings left and stuff. But to me, composition is very much like painting, where you're spending time really, really working. Because I used to spend a lot of time working shading and colorations and things so that we could create dimension, and all those things carry over into painting.
When did you go to college for music, or what
No,
did you start
I'm
doing it?
self-taught actually. Actually, that Chick Corea cover,
Yeah.
it is a kind of a funny story, but I got $300 for that cover, and I ran down to Manny's Music in New York City and bought my first soprano.
Oh wow.
Yeah, with that money, and which is another story in itself because I went in there and said, I want a Silver soprano saxophone, you know? And the guy said, oh, yeah. We said, well, we only have one. This is 1971. So the soprano wasn't as popular as it is now. So, I mean, basically there was Wayne Shorter, Coltrane, and Steve Lacy, and maybe, you know, the traditional guys, and
Yeah.
maybe one or two people. There was a guy named, I think his name was Ronnie Waters. He played it. Sam Rivers was often forgotten by everyone. Sam Rivers, he played it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, I go in there, and he says, "Well, there's a guy upstairs who's got it. He's playing it." He said, "But I don't think he's going to buy it because he's been playing it for a long time. Usually, if they like it, they come down, they play it, and they buy it. You know." I said, "Well, what?" I said, "I can't wait. I have to go back." I was working at the Museum of Modern Art, so I said, so I went back to work, and my boss knew that I was interested in the horn. He let me out early. I went back to Manny's, and I said, "Oh, you still have that horn?" He said, "Oh, you came back." Yeah, he didn't buy it. He said, "You have a mouthpiece? You want to try it?" He said, "Okay." I said, "I don't have a mouthpiece." He said, "What do you play?" I said, "Selmer E, metal." He said, "Oh, okay. So what kind of reed you use?" I said, "Rico Roy's number 4." And he went, "Really? Okay." So he put it together, and he says, "Here, go ahead." And I'm like in the store. It was like the like there were two professional music stores, Ponte's and this Manny's Music was on 46th or 47th Street, and I don't know how to play, and I'm like, rock, screech, rock, screech. The guy says, "Hey, wait, do you even know how to play?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, how do you know what you want?" I said, "I want everything Coltrane had." I said, "I want a summer saxophone. I want a summer mouthpiece, summer cork grease, summer everything." The guy said, "Okay, man, it's your money." And he gave it to me. But that was, I had no fear, you know. But but I knew a lot of really fine musicians, and by watching them, I knew first off, the best thing was I knew what it was supposed to sound like. Second thing was I knew what you needed to do in order to make it sound that way. So when I wasn't playing, I would practice. You know, I mean, I had a job. I would go to Museum of Modern Art early in the morning and practice. And at lunchtime, I would just play really soft long tones in the sculptor garden. And one of the guys came up to me and said, "Hey, you're the guy that plays at lunchtime?" I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, I don't have to. I said, "It's fine." I said, "But," he said, "No, no, it's all right." He said, "You should meet Al." I said, "Well, oh, why?" He said, "Because he comes in early and he practices." And this guy, Al, was like a bebopper. So we would, you know, practice together and play a little bit and stuff. And he had his opinion and I had my opinion, you know, and we would trade, and it was really cool. So things like that happened all the way through my, I don't know, entrance into the music. And when in 72, I had my last painting show out here. 73, I came back. Um, and around 74, 75 or so, I saw Bobby Bradford again, because he was originally scheduled to play at the painting show. And then he invited me to the Little Bighorn to play, and I started playing with Bob. And also met the Kleins, you know, Alex and Nels, and a lot of other musicians. And I started to really be thrown under the bus, you know, like sink or swim kind of thing. So, yeah. And then I started expanding the instruments. Well, actually, the first band I was in,
I like that face you made. You were like, I started.
Well, I only
expanding.
wanted to play soprano when I started. I
You
mean,
did, yeah,
I just wanted to play that, and then I had great affinity, like listening affinity for other instruments. But in the first band I was ever in, which was about a year after I got the horn, they said, "Well, we really like the soprano, but can you get a flute? Can you play flute?" That was my second instrument. And then when I moved out here, everybody wanted tenor saxophone,
yeah,
and stuff. Yeah, it was so slowly, because of the projects, I would start to bring in things. Certain sounds I heard,
yeah.
like baritone and lower instruments, I really liked. So I
How
just
many?
gravitated to the extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About how many instruments do you play now?
Uh, I mean, I have all the families of flutes, clarinets, saxophones, and I used to play some bassoon. I have an English horn. I wouldn't say I play it. Bassoon I miss a little bit because that's a fun instrument. And then I play instruments from other parts of the world, mostly woodwinds. And then I'll also, over the last few years, because of working with theater companies and dance companies, I've started to play gongs and uh, singing bowls and
Oh, yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Do you is it such like that if you pick up a new woodwind like some from some other country or for maybe something you haven't, it sounds like you've played everything, but is it just it's a pretty easy um, action of playing it because of your experience?
Um, I would like to say yes, but no. Um, some I have an affinity for because I know the way they're supposed to sound.
Yeah,
Others that I want to have a good sound, I want to have the traditional sound, but I don't want to play the traditional music because I just feel I would be doing a disservice to it. I'm not from that culture. However, I like the instruments and I want to use it in the music that I do. But I
yeah,
do want to sound,
authentic.
yeah. So that takes a little work. Often it takes a little work. It's often learning a new embouchure or really coming to it from not the Western approach. And even playing something like Turkish clarinet, you have to forget about like what the regular Bohm system clarinet does, and play the Turkish clarinet and listen to the music and see, like what the actual sound is and how you make it. It's different,
Yeah,
very different. And that keeps me kind of like really excited about it. I like that music. I like that instruments to push my to push. It's like having more paints, to me. It's like having another color. And then that usually pushes me into a different compositional phase.
yeah. I wanted to go to again just share a bit of I hope you don't mind that I don't listen to to the whole tune.
I don't mind.
Um, want to let's see. I wanted to hear that one we. Oh yeah, the Red Cat.
Oh yeah, the large group. Yeah,
Yeah, because the large group is pretty fascinating. Oops. Let's see.
yeah. Whenever you get that many players in one place, man.
Yeah.
Uh, that Pinnefin Festival is nice, but it's a small group.
Uh huh. Let's see. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. So let's see. Now this one,
Keep
right?
going.
Or
No,
no?
no,
Oh,
keep going. Keep going.
the
Keep going.
2000.
Keep going. No. Yeah, that one
Okay.
right there. There it is.
Yeah, and then I had it marked off at
Six.
6:20.
Yeah, 6:20. I think you'll see another Gavin solo there. And then I think mine is after. I think I have a baritone solo after him. That's Karina. Karina.
Wow, this is pretty fascinating. Yeah. And it goes on for like this.
for days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Notes Klein has a great thing. He says, oh, if a large ensemble is playing, always leave them wanting less.
What would say that again? I didn't hear that.
Always leave them wanting less.
Oh. Oh gosh. No, that's just so it's a lot. Yeah, it's but it's just interesting. It floats in and out of your awareness and your ears, like yeah, I am in January. I was in New York and I happened to be walking around and I stopped in for the new music school and a few pieces, and they were really interesting. I forget the composers, but there was one piece. It was really funny because there was a little old lady sitting next to us who apparently would come to a lot of the concerts, and she said, "Oh God, that was terrible." But it was actually it was a weird piece because it was the same line basically over and over again, and there was probably I want to say 20 orchestra people, and the different it would shift around to different combinations of the people playing it,
Uh,
and that went on for 20, 30 minutes. And so I mean I could see why the lady was thought it was it was horrible because yeah, it was long and it was basically the same song over and over and over again, and a short song.
so
But
maybe a modern bolero. Bolero's the same thing.
see, there you go. Hey, Stuart Balcom. Hi, Stu. He said, say hi for Joanne Warfield. She knew you back in the day.
Huh, fantastic.
Um, so let's see, what other countries are interested in this music?
Oh boy.
A
Are you
lot?
kidding? Yeah. I mean, all of Europe. Japan has some. Japan has prime the prime expert, of course, would be Toshiko's band,
Yeah.
but lately there's a younger woman named Satoko Fuji, who has a large ensemble similar that she writes a lot of the music, and I think she writes all the music, and she's very prolific. And some of I I really like her the Japanese version. She has a New York version and a Japanese version, uh, but she's a very creative woman. Her and her husband Tets Tetsuko Tetsuko, I think, is a trumpet player. They play from duets to large groups. The large group is particularly good. The writing is very nice and
Hmm.
very interesting. So that there's a couple in Australia, but they're mostly more traditional in Australia. Mike Knock has one actually, as music for a larger group that isn't as traditional as such, but more based on harmonic music. Very beautiful music, actually. um, uh, often, I mean, Germany has a ton of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all the European countries are pretty good, and there are now some new Nordic bands that are becoming more well known, and I can't pronounce. Unfortunately, I cannot pronounce their names, but they're on a couple of really nice records on ECM. Um, yeah, there's a lot. There's quite a bit. In the States, there is a guy in Connecticut. Man, I can't I can't think of his name offhand. It's like Evil Clown Music is his thing. But he
Evil,
seems to
evil
do
clown music. Yeah.
yeah, he seems to do two concerts or a concert every month. I
Huh.
mean, not right now, but in the past, and he has different configurations. Like sometimes it'll be the whole band, sometimes just the woodwinds, sometimes just the strings and stuff. He's also a multi-instrumentalist. I don't remember his whole name, but I think it's Evil Clown Music. If you look at it, you
Yeah.
might be able to find it. But he's in the Connecticut area. That's one. It used to be quite a few in Canada. I mean, the ones that I work with were the New Music Orchestra in Canada. I mean, I work with a lot of these people. They bring me in as a guest, and then sometimes they play the compositions. And again, the problem is like the reading part is not uniform. So you have to write new compositions or tailor compositions you already have. But I've done it too with the University of Alabama jazz band and stuff. They bring me in and I bring charts, and I have usually they rehearse ahead of time, and then when I get there, I destroy whatever they've learned in the past. But and teach them the hand signal thing and all that stuff, and then start to tell them, like we're going to open up this area, do this, do this. And most of the students are pretty receptive to that, and because they've been playing the traditional music for a long time, and they want to do something a little different with it. And it really opens up a lot of possibilities, not only for the music I write, but for anyone's music. There's different ways to look at it, and I think that a lot of the faculty are at first pretty reticent to try something like that, but then once they see that it works and the kids are having a lot of fun, then they're more engaged with it. I even did it at the University of Idaho in about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and that was pretty conservative when I got there. But then it opened up nicely. It's mostly,
Reminds me of do you know the book Free Play?
yeah. That's the guy that used to live here, a violin player.
Yeah, Stephen Nachmanovich.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I brought him here for a few workshops,
Uh-huh.
and one workshop was at Idlewild because I was working there for a season, and that was interesting. So he gets to the auditorium, and all the kids are there from all the different departments, right?
Uh-huh.
And he goes out into the middle of the floor, and this is what he does. That's it. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't direct anybody.
Uh-huh.
Pretty soon, some musician starts something, and then shortly, all the the dancers are dancing, and yeah, I mean it was really interesting. It was great how he was able to start something just by his presence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cole Berger had a thing where he taught. He had the creative, creative music studio in Woodstock, and
He had what?
the creative music studio.
Oh, in Woodstock.
Yeah, and he had a way of like everyone in the morning would gather in a circle, and they do singing and rhythm exercises. I thought that was really phenomenal. Like he broke everything down into like 2 and 3, and then he had these, taka 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 taka,
Yeah.
all these things you would sing and go through these cycles and clap and stuff. Really fantastic. I think a lot of stuff can be, a lot of barriers can be broken once everybody starts, like coming from a uniform place like that, and really having everybody concentration focus on listening, and you can do a lot of stuff like that. I like to start with sometimes just one note, like long note, just like one soft note. And usually, what happens is like it's loud. Most people are playing really loud nowadays. And I don't know if people notice this or not, but you tell somebody to play soft, and it's not like soft. It's up here, so that's not soft.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, it was at the Curtis. Is that the Curtis Institute? That's the one that's near the Red Cat. Yeah,
Oh, the one that we were talking about?
yeah.
Yeah.
Curtis Institute. I saw Claude DeLangle. He's the head of the Paris. What I don't know if he still is. I think he is still. He's the head of the Paris Conservatory for the Saxophone. I met him. I met him at a festival in in France, and I mean, we're not like good friends, but we talk to each other every once in a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to see him, and I was just sitting in the back in the audience, and he had a student come and play one of these pieces, and um, kid played fantastic. And Claude said, "It's fantastic." He said, "That's really great." He said, "I can't add anything to say anything about it, but," he said, "you started it here. Now, when I play it, I start it," and he did it, and he was about 3 feet below where this guy started. The sound was almost, you know, I mean, that's where he started. So when he hit those really intense, more, um, when he hit the louder dynamics, they really popped out, and it created this definition of the shape in such a way that that everyone just automatically knew, and he didn't have to say anything. It was really great. That was a big, it was amazing, amazing lesson. Because you ask somebody to tune up nowadays, and you get like, hey, instead of like, instead of like, and maybe bringing it up and then bringing it down. But people don't think about that right now. Everybody's playing very, very loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Ross? Um, is it Schneider? Elvis Schoenberg, his group. Gosh, what is it called? I have to go look. You might know it by the group name. Elvis Schonenberg is his kind of funny stage name. Show and
I've heard it. I've heard of Elvis Schoenberg.
oh, Orchestra Surreal.
Huh. Yes, I have heard
Yeah,
of them. Yes.
they're a very interesting group. He's really an interesting writer,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he's taken some, you know, Jimi Hendrix song, and just as an example, he
Mm-hmm.
has an orchestra, a small, not a huge orchestra, but an orchestra of top players,
Mm-hmm.
and they dress up in kind of, I guess you'd call it kind of clown-like type of stuff.
Uh,
And then they have two or three singers who are excellent, one or two classical people, and Angela Brown, who's a very versatile singer.
mm-hmm.
And they have personalities like Angela's Miss Thing, and Ross is Elvis Schoenberg, and his writing is, I mean, it is a Jimi Hendrix song, but you know,
Yeah.
it's great.
Uh,
Anyway, they've been together, I think, about 25 years.
wow. Wow.
It's
That's
a very
intense.
enjoyable show.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of curious, a lot of the cats that maybe have some conservatory or college training and stuff. I don't know if this is not related to the previous topic, but they seem to have blurred a lot of the boundaries of, like what this music type is supposed to be, but they've integrated it with this other music. There's a group of four bass clarinet players from the Bay Area, and they do tunes like "Stairway to Heaven," and these. They also do classical pieces from the Mozart. I don't know. I'm just making this up. And
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
the Mozart, clarinet concerto, like little excerpts. But they also do then Jimi Hendrix tune, or they might do "Stairway to Heaven," like I said, or something else, and really blur the boundaries of stuff. And I find
Yeah.
that that's happening more now, especially
Yeah, I
with the
hear
kind
that
of
too.
training musicians have now. It's not as one pointed as it once were. And it's not unlikely. Like here in town, there's a nice saxophone player named Eric Barber. He's
Uh-huh.
very familiar with playing Balkan music and then playing Lenny Tristano music. I mean, he it really can play the either one with a great deal of ease, actually. And
Yeah.
can create some really really beautiful stuff. And he's incorporated it into his own music that uses
Hmm.
different rhythmic cycles. So, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of this kind of cross
Well, I
cultural.
know.
Yeah,
Actually, I saw one of the cellists, the second cellist, the guy with the
yeah,
dark hair. Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen him a lot
Marcus
at the
Stein.
Blue Whale with.
He's a new music. I mean, all the guys, all the people in that band, they all, that's, that's 50 people you could have a show on each one of them because they all have their own groups and almost all of them have their own groups. If not, they play in chamber type groups or other groups. I mean, Derek Stein's a new music specialist. So is Brian Walsh. You know, very
Yeah,
at home with Fernie Ho and Andrew Hill. Can
yeah,
make those kind of like jumps like nothing, like it's nothing.
yeah. Are you how you teach at CalArts, right?
Yeah,
And how long have you taught there?
it's my 21 years.
Oh.
Yeah. Susie Allen brought me in. She was a harpist. She heard a concert I was doing for, I think it was the Independent Composers Association. I'm not sure about that. But
Hmm.
she heard a piece I wrote. Uh, I think it was Linderman's Decision. It's not a great piece of music, but at the time it brought together like uh, cats like Kim Richmond and Bill Roper and a lot of the local guy, and we played this kind of mixed piece with viola and cello and tuba and clarinet and myself. And anyway, she was interested in it, and she told me that she wasn't improvising that night, but she told me that she had an interest in improvising, and she's kind of wrote the book on 20th century harp. She actually literally wrote the book on it. It's called like New Music for Harp.
Like literally wrote the book, yeah.
and and we started playing as a duo.
Oh,
And she was on sabbatical one semester, and she said, "Would you like to take my improv class?" She said, "Do you have any teaching experience?" And I said, "Well, I taught a little bit in college as a TA, and I also when I got out of college, I did some drawing classes, and I also taught sixth and seventh grade. I was a sub in a high, so I had teaching credentials and stuff. So I said, okay, yeah. So I went in, and the school liked me, so they kept bringing me back, and eventually I, I'm still there. So knock on wood, times are tough these days. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I've been there for a while, and it's been fantastic for me because I have all these young musicians and who are just hungry to know about the areas of music that I work in because they've already had since most of the ones that are like they've already had certain sufficient training like even if they're coming out of the rock thing they know how to play the rock things which I don't I didn't have that knowledge when I started so they have a substantial knowledge of their area of music and they're interested in bringing that into something else because there are so many people doing this and they want to do what they hear and so okay let's work on this you know and maybe if you can work on your composition maybe if you have a different setting for your instrument that might open up these areas of exploration and then there are people in terms of the guitar that maybe they don't know about somebody like Hans Reichel or I'm sure they know Satriani, but maybe they don't know Lenny Breau, or people like that. And a lot of times it's just a question of like looking at them doing some chording and saying, did you ever read Ted Green's book? Did you ever look at Ted Green's? Who's Ted Green? It was like, oh, he was, the master of chords. I mean, that's he wrote a book. Actually, he did. I think he did write a book eventually
Yeah,
about.
he did. It was, he told me he referred to it much later as Frankenstein's Bible or something. He, I could think late as he grew older, he just thought, oh, why did I do that? Chord chemistry, that was what it was called.
Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, he was, I mean, he just like hold court. I don't think I ever heard him play a line. Everything was always chords with him.
that's
Um,
right. Chords, bass note, and melody line.
yeah,
That was what he
he
did.
was, I mean, amazing at it. So a lot of kids don't know that because they haven't had the opportunity to see that, or they haven't maybe seen, I mentioned Lenny Breau, but they're, Joe Albany or any of these people who were like, you know, industry standards for us. And they played all around town when we used to have a lot of clubs that people could play at, and you could go here. I mean, especially in the valley, you could go to those. What was that one place that was upstairs? Uh,
Yeah, there was not Lake Cafe, the other one. In fact, I had my jam session there for a while later. What was it called? Well, it's Spazio's. Is that what the one you were thinking of?
no, I think it could have been like cafe actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that
suppose.
room is still there, by the way. It's called the Sherman Room.
Ah, wow. Yeah,
Interesting, yeah.
yeah.
There was the
I mean,
sound room, there was Dante's, and of course
yeah.
there was the Big Potato.
Dante's was fantastic. I mean, to hear cats like Warren Marsh and I mean, there's such a rich tradition here.
Yeah,
I mean, and then going over to Marlowe's Cafe,
yeah,
Morrow's Memory Lane and those places. I
I
mean, you
know.
see the entire tradition of the Black Cats, and then Venice had to come back in, and the Az's Club and all those places. Where it was like maybe a little bit more freer, where we would all play. That was just the most. I mean, you could have your smorgasbord.
Yeah,
The Ice House had stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so there was even a drummer here named Lester Merle for a while
I
who had.
talked to him last week on this show.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah, he had a thing called the Cellar Theater. That's where I
that
first.
was a cool place.
Yeah, it was really cool. I heard a lot of good music there, and I played a little there. Yeah, that was very neat, really neat. Yeah, so I mean, like like you could hear all these people, but those people don't come up in the history books. They're not in there. Just the prominent. Once more, the prominent East Coast guys. I mean, if you take bebop, just take bop. They don't hardly mention the West Coast and the bop movement. However, Charlie Parker used to like to spend his time here. I know what's the reason? Because Howard McGee was here, right? Or he already was familiar with the vocabulary. Dudu, Marmarosa was here. There's a couple of other pianists that were all here that were all familiar with his stuff. Certainly the bass players and the drummers were here. All these guys that were here all helped him with his vocabulary. Matter of fact, I go as far as to say the first bebop tenor players come from the West Coast, not New York. Cats like,
Really?
yeah, sure, cats like Teddy Edwards, and coming even back further, like guys like Don Bias, and he's more like a transitional guy coming out of the swing thing. But Wardell Gray, definitely, I would say, and he's a West Coast guy. Even Dexter was a West Coast guy.
Huh.
So all these guys that really created this language, this bop language for the tenor, are from here. That's not to mention the white aspect of it. In the later years, like guys like Jay Migliori and Pete Chrisley, and you could
Don
even,
Menza.
yeah. I mean, and later on after that, you got guys like Marty Crystal and stuff expanding. Pete Chrisley I don't know if I said him twice, but he should be said twice.
He's tall, so he deserves to be.
But I mean, these are guys that really like redefine the instrument in a lot of ways, to really have that technical facility and smoothness. Maybe it's not the attack that they have on the New York side, but it's different. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's not any less, and it's certainly not any more. But it's kind of right there. All that hard bop movement, you can substitute anybody.
Yeah.
Harold Land, you can't get better than Harold Land.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unsung guys like from the Watts area, like Rudolph Johnson. He's a guy that no one mentions, but he's a unique guy and a great researcher also. I don't think he wrote a book, but man, he was delving into these. He had these really. I talked to him once about he was playing pentatonic scales through secondary dominance and coming up with all this Coltrane types. Makes your head hurt to talk to him, But like he was, amazing player, really amazing player. He went with. I think he got tired of fighting the fight, and he went with Ray Charles and became until he died. I think he was with Ray Charles. But he an awesome player, really.
Yeah, and then there was like Billy Higgins and
yeah.
I mean, I played with some of the Heath brothers. I don't know if they lived here or I don't know if they.
Well, the thing is that a lot of the stuff that becomes reality for New York starts here, like Mingus, Eric Dolphy. I mean, that whole situation, Ornette Coleman. The first, or Paul Blake.
Yeah.
All that stuff is like centered here, and it moves over there because no one pays maybe attention to it.
Right.
Or maybe it's phased out, or they don't want to really argue the fight anymore, and they go someplace where it's easier to, maybe there are more gigs or something like that. I don't know. Just I'm not from that time, but I do know when I talk to cats, like they're very, very scant on the knowledge of the. I mean, if you want avant-garde, there's a recording with Sonny Shelly Man and Shorty Rogers, and I don't know who the horn player was. Could be Jimmy Joffrey or somebody like that. And it's just a trio because the bass player didn't show up. It's amazing. It's totally amazing. The writing is like it's like Bebop Schoenberg. It's really cool. No one says a word. What is that? I don't hear anything. Guys like Charles Lloyd, who are famous and such, come from the West Coast.
There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, Vinny's from New York, so if he says it's the West Coast, it's true.
Well, I mean, people, when you play a lot with people like Horace and Bradford and John Carter and stuff, they talk about this stuff and you hear the history.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that more people don't get to hear the history of these great, not only musicians, but great people, And I mean, Steve Iswardi's done a great job of documenting some of Horace's background, his talks, his music, his whole contribution to the community and stuff. He's done a great service, to the community by writing about all this stuff and making the world more aware of it. But not as many people know the rest. That's only one aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have our jobs cut out for us. There is Dean Muccetti says you were the most supportive teacher. Thanks.
He's a good drummer, that kid. Lee Musetti, I remember him really well. He's a funny dude. Funny dude. Sometimes he's sitting in front at some of the concerts and, whoa! I know that theme would be there. Good guy. A really good guy. Yeah, nice drummer. Really nice drummer.
It's nice when the audience reacts.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's been doing some really good teaching stuff with the kids, like just buying paint buckets and stuff and having the kids play the buckets and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Interesting cat. That's the
That's
great
great.
thing about Cal Arts, like you meet such a great, I mean, not only the faculty, I mean, Larry Kuntz and
Yeah.
Joe, Joe LaBarber, it's fantastic, Derek Olds, all these cats are there and they're part of history, and it's great, and you become more associated with not only their history, but also the history of our area. And then you
Yeah.
get these new people that you see, like I had a student called James, his name is James Brandon Lewis, and he's playing in New York now, and he's becoming a very well thought of player in New York, with a lot of people writing about him and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Fantastic to see, successes like that stuff. It's great. It really
Yeah,
is.
I remember Benny Maupin had a trumpet student who he brought into the band.
Uh,
And I'm sorry, I forget his name. Um, really good. Kind
uh,
of had a Freddie Hubbard type of sound, but really had his own, his own perspective.
uh, black guy, white guy,
Black guy, tall,
Chris
slender.
Williamson.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is him.
yeah, yeah. Very nice player. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good writer too.
Hmm.
Very interesting because we were working on something once, and I just happened to come in the room, and I
Mhm.
played something on flute with him, and he liked the sound, and we played a little together after that. But it's good, nice, very nice.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Vinny, it's been 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
He's like, yeah, we can talk for a few more hours. Um, and we can at some other point, but but and I don't stop hard at 2 hours, but usually at 2 hours, it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
Thank you for spending 2 hours
my
and
pleasure.
hanging
Thank you
out.
for asking me. Thank you for asking me. Usually, no one asks me nothing.
That is so sad. Oh man, that's heartbreaking, man.
That's cool. That's cool. That's all right. Yeah.
I have a DVD of big your orchestra.
Oh, great.
It's great. It's
Thank
really
you.
it's so much fun to have it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those people that you see in there, they're all going on to do really cool things. I mean, almost every one of them. It's amazing. And the ones that, like I said, the ones that don't do it for themselves are playing in other people's bands. It's really remarkable. Uh,
It's such
very
a
pleased.
richness.
Yeah, very pleased.
Yeah. Well, anything you want to say to the audience listening?
Well, support your local musicians. Pretty soon, I don't know if you'll not be able to for a long time, or you can, but you can do it in other ways and go to YouTube or go to Bandcamp. Fridays, Bandcamp has not all Fridays, but some Fridays, Bandcamp has a thing of buying uh, music, and all the artists get all the proceeds, and sometimes they give to different charities like Black Lives Matter and such like that. So I think that that's a great way to support some music and take a chance on a couple of people that you don't know, like Alex Lewis or Dan Rosenblum's label, or Gavin, or any of those cats like that. Andrew Westman and Chris Williamson, check them out. Miller Wren. I mean, all these people are all Clint Houston. There's so many. There's so many of these people that are coming up, and there's a nice drummer named Clint Dodson who's doing some really nice stuff. And I mean, they're all over the place. And, you know, all you have to do is just kind of like get out of the norm and break it out a little bit. And maybe you might be excited by some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we can go out again,
Yeah.
Blue Whale and
Yeah.
Brad Dutz's Thursday night series, the Red Cat. Um, yeah, there's
The
a lot of
Alex and
great
Will
music.
series, the Eagle Rock.
Eagle
Sunday,
Rock,
yeah,
First Sunday.
yeah,
Yeah, the World Stage. That's
yeah,
another guy too, Billy Higgins. You know,
yeah.
who didn't know Billy Higgins? Um, I just wanted to tell you guys who's going to be on next week is Monday is a totally one of the hardest swinging singers I know, Nancy Kelly. She's from New York.
Oh, yeah,
She swings from butt off.
yeah.
And so she's going to be on Monday. And then Tuesday, this is an interesting trio. The wonderful Kate McGarry and Lenora Hammonds, who's also a singer, and Shauna Tucker, who plays cello and sings and is wonderful. She plays with Benny Maupin too. So the three of them are going to be on, so that should be kind of a little party. Then Wednesday, John Beasley talking about nice writing for,
Yeah.
for group. And I have my day off is Thursday. And Friday, Robert Kyle, wonderful woodwind player. Saturday, Eve Evans, who's been around here for ages, singer, pianist, really great. And then Sunday, Alexis Cole, who's a singer and educator from New York.
Huh.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then, and onwards after that. I'm still going to keep going until somebody says, I can't. I don't know.
Who might that be?
I'm not sure. I mean, who am I going to listen to? Oh, okay, I'll stop now. No, that's kind of not me, so. Great to talk to you, Vinny.
Same
It's
here.
been way too long that we really had a chance to communicate, and it's fascinating hearing, kind of tapping into your head and your your music world. Yeah, it's a very rich experience hearing about all this stuff. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Maybe next time we'll talk about the basses from here. That's a whole other subject.
Yeah, speaking of that, my husband collects records,
Yeah.
and every now and then I'll look at what he's collected, and he had a sealed copy of Alex Klein and Eric Von Essen.
Oh, yeah.
What a pretty record, man. That was really beautiful.
Was it quartet music?
Just the two of them.
Just the two of them. Oh, oh. Eric was an amazing musician.
He
I
was.
mean, yeah, I remember once he asked me a question about how my approach to playing tunes. And I said, you're probably not so interested in playing, like my approach, because it's mostly like melodic. I learn the melodies and I sing the melodies in my head. And I'm not as concerned with the harmonic material as I am with the melodic material. And he said, huh, wow, I never looked at it that way. I'm going to have to do some research on this. 2 days later, I saw him and he was playing with Warren Marsh. He was like picking Warren's brain about playing melodies over all these changes and stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing musician.
Yeah, and
Great writer.
yeah, great writer. And one time I did a gig with him at Chadney's. Remember Chadney's?
Yeah.
And I had this group for a while that had two guitars. One was Steve Cardenas, and I'm not sure, the other one might have been Larry Kuntz, but
Yeah.
and Eric and Paul Krybik. And
Uh,
we were playing, and it was a blues. It was the last song. I mean, this is the one that kind of got my attention. It was I sang the blues, and then I was letting everybody solo, and I was planning on coming back in. But what happened during the solo was, musically speaking, it was as if Eric opened a door and led everybody through this door into another musical space.
Mm.
I didn't sing at all at the end because there was no there was absolutely no reason, because he had, and you don't really hear bass players doing that much. I mean, bass players are super important in the group, but you don't hear them kind of leading so much, you know. But he led everybody into that room, and it
Yeah.
was so beautiful. And I was like, that's it, I'm
Well,
done.
when you play with guys like him and Ken Filiano in particular, I mean, I play with
Yeah,
Ken a lot. Ken's like that. He has a perception that's really based on extensive, exhaustive study, and you you don't question it. You just have to. I remember I was playing with him and Billy Mintz, and every tune we played that I had written, they played it in a different tempo. So some worked, some didn't work, and blah blah blah. And I said, Ken, you're changing the tempo and everything. What are you doing there? Blah blah blah. Blah. He said, I can't. He said the tune isn't working when you change it that way. And he said, write tunes that work, Tim. What? I was like, okay. If you're going to improvise and write a tune, then you should be able to play it a lot of different ways, right? So it wasn't on him; it was all on me. You know, and it
And
was,
then you went and started writing all these
yeah.
different
I
things.
mean, it just that's the thing about, like, how you had that door open. I had that door open. It's like, oh, this is a great way to look at it. And that started me off on that whole thing that I was talking to you about like changing tempos and doing these things within a tune, and then
Yeah,
improvising over the top in a different manner. And then you start to have a floodgate of, like, creativity with the way you can improvise. Then you have to, of course, work on your facility to make sure that you are able to respond as quickly as your brain can respond. That never happens, but that
yeah,
gives you the impetus to practice more and improve your musicianship. So guys like Kenny and Dresser and that, and even, I mean, playing with Charlie, it was like, the guy plays one note and it's a symphony. I mean, that's,
yeah,
you know that's something else. And there's a lineage of that with West Coast bass players, like Albert Stinson, totally forgotten, and Scott LaFaro, who's also from here. So we just named 5 bass players who changed the course of bass history, 6 actually, and they're all from here, the West Coast.
yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, my friend Dan Davila reminded me, the another venue that's really cool is the Just Jazz concert series by Leroy Downs.
Oh
Um,
yes,
that's
yeah,
a really cool series, and he's very adventurous and, you
mm-hmm.
know, welcoming
Yep,
curator. You know, it's really
yes it
good.
is. I played there with Breeze Smith's group.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
I've never played there with my own group, but I played there with Breeze's group, and it's a very nice space. It's very sweet. Yeah,
it is a nice space. I played there too.
nice to be reminded of.
Yeah, yeah. All
Hey,
right,
I don't
man.
want to keep you in it.
Thank you so much, man.
My pleasure.
He's
Anytime.
really nice.
Thank,
Don't get into trouble out there.
no, no, wear a mask.
Goodbye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Thank you again. Thank you again.